Hi, my name is Cathryn Taylor, and I am a licensed marriage and family therapist. I am an addictions counselor, a practitioner of Gary Craig's emotional freedom techniques, and I'm the author of the Inner Child Workbook. I am putting together a series of videos on the concept of the grief process being interlaced with the addictive behaviors and the concept of the inner child. Once I am presenting these different stages of grief, in this video we're going to be talking about anger, I then offer you an EFT sequence that will hopefully help you at least be introduced to how you can begin to take the edge off of your anger that may result in really addictive behavior and also result in really disconnecting with your inner child. The time that we are closest to our inner child is right before we act out addictively. Now, the reason the 5 stages of grief are so pervasive in this whole dilemma is because the way that we manage our response to loss is through addictive and compulsive behaviors. We discharge the energy, we try to numb ourselves out, or we just get lost in the activity of the addiction so that we don't have to focus on the actual loss that is at hand. When we get into the 3rd stage of grief, which is anger, we have already experienced the panic of the loss. We've tried to control, fix, or change the loss. And when we recognize we can't do that, we either feel irritated or we get angry. Anger is a way of holding on. When we finally really get angry because we have to deal with the loss, it's a way that we sever our hope. It severs basically our inner child's hope that things are going to be different. Now, it can also be related to a loss in adult life. If you go through a divorce or something, you're going to have an adult self who has its own grieving process to go through. But any loss tends to trigger excuse me, unresolved loss from childhood. So think of a time recently that you may have felt irritated or angry. And we're going to deal with that and neutralize that instead of discharging that. Usually what we do with anger is we either punish ourselves by aggressively acting out. Like when we binge eat or we binge drink, that is a form of self-punishment. That's a form of self-molestation, really, because we are purging and punishing ourselves. If we project it out, then we get into a fight with somebody or we get into a shaming, blaming match with somebody. What I'm trying to do is give you a way to cope with that so that you can move beyond it and come back into a state of calm. Now, I'm going to assume that you have some familiarity with the process of EFT. If you don't, I encourage you to visit Gary Craig's website, which is mofree.com. You can also find plenty of resources on my website, which is joincathryntaylor.com. For right now, I encourage you to get in touch with a recent experience where you felt either irritated or angry, because either one can be an expression of your loss of control over a situation, or an actual loss of something that's tangible. And now you're angry that you have to deal with it. So this is just going to kind of scratch the surface of it, but I'm hoping to inspire you to use the EFT and to work with the inner child in order to manage these feelings. Our biggest fear is that we won't be able to cope. And the initial stage of panic brings that fear on the most. All of these subsequent stages of grief, the bargaining and the anger and even the despair, are attempts to ward off that feeling that we're not going to cope with the actual loss of this. If we come back into a state of oneness with our higher self and our higher power, then we can come back into the confidence and the faith and trust that we will survive. This is the anger that we have to deal with in the first place. All right, so begin tapping. Even though a part of me feels really angry that I have to deal with this, I care enough about myself to take the edge off of that anger so that I can move back to a state of faith and trust. Even though I feel really irritated right now, and I feel some sort of loss of control, or loss of hope that I don't like. I love myself enough to neutralize that edge so that I don't have to act out. Even though I feel really angry right now, I might even just feel irritated. But I choose to neutralize that edge so that I can come back into a state of faith and trust. Okay, so now that has set kind of the polarization between the part of you who's angry and wanting to act out and the part of you who wants to come back into faith and trust. All right, so now start tapping on the different endpoints. What we're doing first is we're taking the edge off. Feel really angry. Really wish that this didn't have to be dealt with. I don't know why I have to deal with this. I'm so irritated. I'm really irritated. Or a part of me is irritated. I just feel out of sorts. I feel rageful. I just want to act out. I want to lash out. I'm so angry and agitated and irritated. I don't like feeling this way. I don't like not being in control. I don't like having to deal with this loss. I don't like this at all. I want to come back into a state of grace. I want to come back into a state of calm. I don't like feeling this edginess. I want to just take a deep breath. I want to relax. I want to neutralize this edge. Even if there's a validity to it, I want to calm myself down so that I can decide what action would be best for my adult self or my healthy self, not for my reactive, angry self who wants to lash out. I now choose to come back into a state of calm. I am calm. I am at peace. I feel that I can tolerate this. I feel I can cope. I stand in the vibration of peace, harmony, faith, and trust. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Now take a deep breath and just get the edge off. And if you have to journal more about what the anger is and what action you have to take, do so. But anytime you get to the agitation, where you want to lash out, take the edge off with the EFT. I hope this has been helpful, and I hope that you begin to see kind of how this sequence of all of these stages of grief can really be dealt with. You can find the courage to cope. Thank you.